Hey, so in this video, I'm going to show you how to build a very beginner-friendly Q&A AI agent inside of n8n. So what this agent allows you to do is upload very big PDF files to Pinecone, and then you can have a back and forth conversation with it in n8n. Not only that, it's going to store the questions and answers inside of Airtable. So as an example, I've got two of Alex Hormozi's books, which, by the way, I've paid for both of these books inside of Google Drive, right? So this one is 385 pages, and this one is 210 pages. So for example, I can hop into my agent here and say something like, what does Alex say about using urgency in your offers? I'm going to fire that off, and you can see my agent get to work here. It's searching through those PDF documents. It's going to chunk out the most relevant parts of his books and what he says about using urgency. And you can see we're going to get an answer here from my agent. And not only that, that answer is going to pop into Airtable for me right here. And so here is the agent response here. So it says, Alex emphasizes the importance of incorporating urgency into offers in his book. And it talks about creating time deadlines, price changes, exploding opportunities, and combining urgency with bonuses. So let's take this answer from my AI agent here where it says that Alex talks about using price changes, right? Now, if I go back into his book, $100 Million Offers, we can see where it's pulling this from page 159 of a 210-page PDF where Alex talks about using price increases as a part of doing urgency. By the way, if you want to grab all of my templates for n8n, for Gumloop, and Lindy, hop into my school community, AI Automation Made Easy. We are a growing group of people who want to use AI and automation in our own businesses and also to offer it as a service, either as a consultant or an agency. So we've got a thriving community. We've got a classroom over here. So this contains all of my YouTube videos and then all of the resource files, whether it's n8n or Gumloop, that you can upload or copy and paste into your own workflow. So be sure to hit the link below this video and hop into the community. So in this video, I'm going to show you the step-by-step how I set this up in n8n, but let's first begin with the game plan and what we're doing. All right, so this agent flow has two different parts. So at the top, what we're doing is we're dealing with the files. So I've got these books, again, in my Google Drive. So in n8n, we're going to search those files, download those files to prepare them for Pinecone. Then we're going to tag each PDF with its file name so we can append that during our searches. And then we're going to prepare it to go into a Pinecone vector database, which is a RAG system that's going to upload these giant PDFs, chunk it out into little pieces, and then retrieve only the relevant sections when we're trying to chat with our documents. So the benefit of using Pinecone over just regular ChatGPT is that Pinecone can handle hundreds, thousands of documents, probably hundreds of thousands of pages, whereas if you're just using ChatGPT, you're going to run into a limit both with your file size and your context window. And then down here, we've got our agent, which is going to search the files and come back with an answer. So it starts with a chat message. We can just chat with this agent in n8n. Then it's going to go over to our tools agent, our question and answer AI agent. So what the agent does is it first asks Pinecone for the most relevant chunks, and then it feeds those snippets into OpenAI, which is going to generate the answer for us. And then just for fun, this is obviously not required, but I just wanted to show another use case here. We're writing these answers and questions, by the way, to an Airtable database with the date and the time. So you can see my questions here on the books and the answers to save in Airtable. All right, let's build this out step by step. To get started, obviously, you need n8n. You're going to need Pinecone. I'm on a free Pinecone account. If you want to do the Airtable step, you need a free Airtable account as well. And then, of course, you're going to want some big PDF document to play around with. All right, so let's build this out step by step. So in n8n, you want to do a new workflow in your account. And we're just going to start this by doing a manual trigger. So click on the plus button, and then you can see it's the very first node here, which is trigger manually. Now, to prepare the next step, which is going to be a Google Drive step, you want to create a folder in your Google Drive that contains your PDF documents. So you can see I have a folder called Hormozi Books, and it's got both of the PDFs loaded up here. All right, so the first thing we need to do is go find those documents or go search for them. So I'm going to hit a new node here. I'm going to search for Google Drive. So let's add that onto the canvas here by selecting, we want to search for files in folders. So let's click into that. and now we configure this. If you haven't yet, you'll need to connect to your Google account. It's a one-click login, so it's super easy to do that in n8n. We're going to leave resource at file and folder. Operation is going to be search. Search method we could leave alone as well. And we don't need a search query because what we're doing is we want to grab those specific files from that folder, okay? And then to do that, we need to add a filter here. So on the dropdown for add filter, click on folder, and this is where you're going to grab your folder. So keep it on from list, and then in the dropdown here, you're going to search for the folder that you created in Google Drive. So you can see I'm searching for Hormozi, and then the Hormozi books folder is going to populate. And then we can test that step to see if it's grabbing that. And we can see in the output here, we have 2 items. Okay, so it grabbed both of those documents. You can see the name, $100 million offers, and then $100 million leads. So it grabbed both PDF files from that step, so we know that's working. And now in order to get them into Pinecone, we actually need to download them first from Google Drive. So let's add a new node here, search for Google Drive, and then what we want here is download file. And by the way, you can rename these as you go. So I've already got my Google Drive connected. The resource is file, the operation is download. And then what we want to do here for the file is we want to change this from list to ID, right? Because we want this to come in from the previous step, from the previous input. And then for that ID, what I want to do is under that first Google Drive node is drag this ID into the field. That's going to change it automatically to an expression. And now I should be able to test this. And what I can see come out in the output are those 2 PDF files, right? So again, we've got the offers book and we've got the leads book. And if you wanted to download these, you could, but now we know that step is working. All right, so now this next step is optional as well. And what I'm going to try to do here is, I just kind of tweaked it, is I want to see if the agent can reference the document that it's getting its answers from. So let's say that you had a Google Drive folder with 20 documents and you want to know where the agent is pulling its answer from. If you want to do that, then you can do this next step. So for the next node, what you want to search for is set or edit fields. So click into that. We're going to leave manual mapping on. And then for fields to set, I'm going to click add field. I'm going to call this document name. And again, we're going to see if the agent can reference the document name. I have not tested this yet, but we will see how it goes. And then for the value, what I'm going to do is drag in the file name from the previous step, which is the download file node. And that's going to change that to an expression. And you can see when I test this in the output, it is pulling in the document name. All right. So for the next step, we're going to send these PDFs up to Pinecone. So again, you need a free Pinecone account. And the non-technical explanation of Pinecone, it's a vector database that's going to store basically every sentence from those PDFs, and it's going to store it in a way that lets us search those PDFs by ideas instead of exact match keywords. So if you know anything about SEO, it's kind of like semantic search instead of exact match keywords. And then so when we ask a question of those PDFs, Pinecone is going to grab only the relevant sections from the books and then pass those down to the AI. So instead of the AI having to go through 700 pages on its own, Pinecone is going to do that hard work up front and then present the relevant passages to our AI kind of on a silver platter, right? So it saves on cost. It allows us to search through hundreds of thousands of pages. All right, so once you have your free Pinecone account, under database, you can see I have 2 indexes here. So you're going to want to create a new index. So call it whatever you want, right? So give it a name there. And then for configuration, this is important because this is going to hook up with n8n. What you want to choose here is the text embedding small from OpenAI. Again, we're going to choose that as an option on the back end in n8n, so it needs to match. Capacity mode, you can leave alone. Cloud provider, you can leave it on Amazon. Your region, you can choose. There's only 3 options that I see, so I'm going to stick with the East Coast on the US. And then that's it. You're going to hit create index. I'm not going to create another one because I already have mine. When you hit create index, it's going to take just a few seconds and you will see it populate over here. And what you're going to want to grab, and let me click into mine, what we're going to need is this index name. All right, so back in n8n, we want to search for Pinecone vector store. And then what we want to do here is we want to first add the documents to our database. So click on add documents to vector store. And then the only thing that you need to change or select is the Pinecone index. So in your dropdown, you should see the one that you just created. So here is the one for Hormozy here. And then we're going to leave batch size at 200. Now you can test this step and you should see them go into Pinecone. I'm not going to do that right now because I already have both of those documents in there. But if you want to test, just hit the test step button. Now, when we pop out, you can see we have two things that we need to add here. So the first is the data loader. So under document, click on that plus sign, and then you want to select default data loader. Now for type of data, we're going to change this to binary and then leave the other settings alone. And now when you do that, we're going to have to add a text splitter underneath that. So click on the plus sign and then choose recursive character text splitter. And then you can leave these settings as they are. And then now the next thing that we need to choose here, click on the plus button down here, is the embedding. So remember earlier when we were setting up Pinecone, we chose the OpenAI embeddings and we chose the small model, right? So if you haven't connected your OpenAI account, obviously you need to do that inside of n8n. And then when you do that, on the model drop down, it already defaults to the text embedding 3 small, which is what we want. All right, so now this first part of the agent is set up. So once you click on test workflow, what it's going to do is, again, it's going to search those files in Google Drive, download them, do that little setting that we did, and then upload them into Pinecone. So you can go ahead and click test workflow. And what you should see when you come back into your Pinecone index is you should see some of these embeddings over here like you see on my screen. And then you can see on my record count, I have 280. So you should see some information populating in your index to make sure that it worked. All right, now that our documents are in Pinecone, let's set up the second part of the agent that can actually chat. So let's just go on a different part of our canvas here and then go up into the search bar and just search for chat and then click chat trigger and then click out of that. And now this is going to start the Q&A agent. And then the next thing that you want to add, the next node is your AI agent. So hit plus, click on AI, and then we want this AI agent node here. Now I did do this off screen, but I sent a chat. So let me come back here. In order to see the input over here on my screen, what you want to do is open chat and just say, hi, how are you? Or just send some kind of message. Even if you get an error, that's fine. All we want to see is the output come through. Because when we open up our AI agent again, we want to be able to grab this input. So you can see in the AI agent parameters and the settings over here, we can see the source for prompt is going to be the user message. So leave that on connected chat trigger node. So for the prompt for the user message, what you should see, kind of hard-coded here, even though it is an expression, is that JSON chat input, which is this field over here. So that's going to be the user message that we're sending. Now, we do want to give our agent a system message. So click on Add Option, click System Message, and the system message that I'm going to give it, and again, this will be inside of my school community, so I'm not going to read this whole thing, but my system message is, you are Hormozy bot, a concise expert on Alex Hormozy's writing. I'm telling it what its knowledge source is, and then I'm giving it some rules, like only answer questions about the book, be direct. I'm saying to use markdown formatting. So just some rules here that the agent should follow. And then we can come up and rename this if you want. And now this part of the agent should be good, but now we still need to do some configuration, as you can see down here. All right, so the first thing that you want is the chat model. So click on that, and you can use any chat model that you want. I'm going to stick with OpenAI. I already have my OpenAI key, and you can use whatever your model you want. Now, I'm just going to leave mine at GPT-4o Mini. All right, so we've got our OpenAI chat model. Now we need to set the memory. So if you click on the plus button, all we're going to choose here is this simple memory node, and I'm going to leave these settings as is. All right, now the important part is we need to give our agent access to Pinecone, right? So under the tools, I want you to click on plus, search for Pinecone vector store, and then so you need your Pinecone account hooked up. Now the operation mode, this is correct. We want to retrieve the documents, okay? Now for the name here, what you want to do, and it says it's the name of the vector store. So inside of Pinecone, let me come back to my indexes or indices. I'm going to click into Hormozy GPT, and under this namespace, we didn't really do anything with this, but this is the name that I want to grab, and I'm going to come back to n8n, and I'm going to paste that for the name. And then for the description, you do want to give the agent some direction on what it's supposed to do with this Pinecone database, And you could definitely expand on this, but I'm just saying use this tool to answer questions about Alex Hormozi's books. And then finally, for the Pinecone index, obviously you want to choose the index that you just created. So here's the Hormozi one, and we can leave the other settings as is. All right, so when you come back to your canvas here, you can see that now we still need to add another setting on the Pinecone vector node, and it's going to be this embedding. So click on the plus button, and again, this is going to be the same thing that we did earlier when we used the OpenAI embeddings, and then it should default to the embedding 3 small. All right, so we can click out of there, and now if you want, you can definitely test the chat. So let me just save this. So we can open up a new chat and say, what are the elements of a home run offer? Now, what it's going to do, it's going to take my chat, and then it's going to hit that Pinecone vector store. It's going to dice it up into relevant sections, and here we can just chat with our agent based on the books and get the answer fully in the chat, right? And so you can see it's chatting with and pulling in the documents from the actual PDFs here. So it talks about attractive promotion, unmatchable value prop, a premium price, which Alex does talk about, an unbeatable guarantee, and flexible payment terms. Right, and we know that it's working because I can see the text here, right? So see where it says to sell in a vacuum, and Alex does talk about that in $100 million offers. And we can see it's pulling in this exact text right here of how to sell in a vacuum. So it's pulling in the relevant text. It's answering the questions based on the PDFs, which is the whole goal of this exercise. We can tell that the chat is working. It is chatting with the documents based on what's in Pinecone. Now you could end it like this, and now you've got a fully working Q&A AI agent where you can talk with both of Alex Hormozi's books. Now, if you want to just take it one step further, just for fun, I added an Airtable step here, again, where we can store our questions and answers in an Airtable database. So to do that, at the end of your question and answer, you're going to hit the plus sign, search for Airtable. You want to create a record. So you'll need to connect your Airtable account, of course. And then once you've done that, you'll be able to choose your base. For this database, I just have a date and time column, a question column, and an answer column, and it's called Hormozi Q&A. So let me search for that in n8n. So here's the right database. Then you've got to choose your table. So for this, it's just Q&A history. All right, you might have to re-execute the chat in order to see the input because we're going to want to pull this in. And again, what I'm pulling in is the date, time, the question, in the answer. So the answer is going to be this output from the question and answer node. So we can drag output into answer. It's going to change to an expression. And now the question is going to be from the chat node. And that field is going to be chat input. So drag that into the question field, and that will change as an expression. And then for date and time, we can actually grab it from variables and context. And it's going to be this now field. So drag that now field or now element into the date time field, and that will change to an expression as well. And now your Airtable step is ready to go. All right, so let's test the one that I had created originally. I'm going to open this chat and we'll say the same thing. What does Alex say are the key elements to a home run offer? So I'm going to fire off that chat. Now, the only difference is when I get this answer back, the formatting is going to be a little different because it's going to be the formatting from the Airtable response, not the chat, which is kind of why we see these fields up here, but we can see the answer, the plain text answer right here, which is the unmatched value proposition. It must present something that cannot be easily compared to other products or services. And now when we hop in to Airtable, we can see the date and time, right? So May 22nd at 12:15, which is on my screen up here. It's pulling in the question. So what does Alex say are the key elements to a home run offer? And now here's the answer from the AI agent: unmatched value prop, attractive promotion, irresistible guarantees, effective naming, and scarcity and urgency. Together, these contribute to creating a grand slam offer. All right, so now we have a fully working AI agent. It's chatting with about 500 pages of Alex Hormozi's books. We can query anything to those books and get an answer directly back to us from our AI agent and store it inside of Airtable. All right, so I hope you enjoyed this AI agent build out. Do me a favor, if you did, like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment below on what you want to see next. It really helps out the channel.